Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to another week on the allotment. It's that time. I say it every year. You're a gardener, I'm sure. You'll be aware. There comes a moment as we come out of winter with the promise of spring. There's a time, there's a moment, usually a weekend, when the sun comes out, the temperatures go up, the daffs are out, and everything is right with the world. And it's this weekend in the UK. The weather is glorious. I mean, the lowest temperature last night was 8 degrees C. Today is set to be about, well, around here about 17, 18, but there are places down in the southeast where it's going to reach 20 plus. And as I talk to you, it's sunrise, about 6:30 in the morning. It's just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I sowed my tomatoes yesterday at home. I'm not using the greenhouse, which is making life a little different. I've got used to the greenhouse. It's like a life support machine. You take it for granted that it's there. But because I've spent so long tidying it up, clearing it out, moving stuff up here, I'm trying to manage without it. It's silly really, because I could use it. I reckon we're at least a month or more. We're not moving till April, no way. If we move. Anyway, I'm not using it, so I've got the windowsill at home with a little propagator. I sowed all my tomato seeds that I'm going to have for the year yesterday. So that's quite a moment. There is a little tub of Ali's rather exotically named tomatoes that she most generously sent me, so thank you, Ali. They're on their way. So it's all very exciting. On the plot, normally I sow my peas in gutters in the greenhouse. I'm going to sow them in gutters, but I'm going to do it on the plot. So I've got to wait a little time. This week coming, the temperatures are down around 0, minus or +1. So patience is important. I'm not quite sure about sowing peas outdoors, how hardy they are. They must be fairly hardy because people sow them through the winter. But anyway, I'm going to wait another week or two before I sow my peas. But there's lots going on the plot. The plot's looking good. And a little bit of news about the site. We all paid our money this week. And the plan for me, if you've been a long-term subscriber, you'll know this, is I am keeping this plot for at least another 12 months. The purpose of that is because we won't be able to create a kitchen garden in the new place this year quick enough. We've simply not got the time or the money to do it. It's going to take a year or two. So this plot's going to be critically important in providing our fruits and vegetables whilst we set up the kitchen garden in our new home. So like I've said to you before, I'm carrying on with this plot as if nothing has changed, because right now nothing has. I have to say, we do now have the contract. We sent it to Canada for David to sign, and he sent it back and it's gone, missing, lost in the post. So we've got to redo that. That is a month's turnaround minimum. So we're a month behind now, and we're still a month off maybe. I don't know, you know, it's never done this before. It's like everything else in this country, unnecessarily complicated, very unreliable. It doesn't work. It's rubbish. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's be positive. The plot is looking good today. The weather is going to be wonderful. The sunrise is spectacular, and you are very welcome. Well, as things are looking fairly good at the moment, let's have a wander up the plot as I update you on where I'm at right now. And it has occurred to me every time I walk past these whacking great piles of wood that I've got a decision to make at some point, because we're not going to be moving till April at the earliest. This wood's going to be in the way here because I want to sow my squash, pumpkins, butternuts, winter mashed potato, etc. And these are the beds I do that on. So what I think is, I don't know if this, I can't imagine this bit of land here has been paid for this year. I mean, it was paid for last year. But I put that bit of blue plastic sheet down to suppress the weeds that were blowing onto my plot, and that's my option, I think, is to stick it there. That's going to involve a lot of hard work, so I'm going to leave that as long as possible. But as we wander up the plot, again, every day I look at these sticks that I chopped. Do you know, I think that's a bud. There's a bud. Stop the press. Oh, fantastic. I genuinely haven't seen that before. Oh, it's the little things in life. Keep you happy, isn't it? That's incredible. I'm chuffed to bits. Anyway, early days. All these blue barrels have got to go with me. Yes, so on the plot main, nice to see the roses budding. A beautiful season ahead, I'm sure, before I chop them in the autumn and move them, hopefully. These beds have all been top dressed with the old compost from these pots. These pots are now toppers with well rotted cow muck. I think maybe today is a get all those old brown leaves off the strawberries. That would be a job worth doing. And here's what I'm doing. These gutters are now got a little bit of compost, bought shop compost in them, ready for my peas. Because I'm sowing them on the plot, there is the danger of mice and rats eating my pea seeds. And I've saved my own pea seeds this year. So I'm thinking that surely mice and rats can't climb sheer, clear, smooth plastic. Can they? Or they might use that rope. I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, the plot is looking good. What else can I tell you? Broad beans. I reapply those organic slug pellets every time I come up here. Whether that's got anything to do with it, but at the moment the broad beans are untouched by slugs, and I know that's tempting fate. This is all the Verbena bonariensis that came out of the flower bed, and I've potted up to take to the new place. I do love that stuff. Here's some cabbages I sowed last September, October. They've overwintered and they're just starting to heart up. Oh, this is the bed that until yesterday held my Brussels sprouts. I put the Brussels sprouts stems through the chipper, and they're on the compost heap. They're quite a ripe smell. I took home the last of the Brussels sprouts and we're having them for dinner tonight. The onions are all still looking good. Nothing's been touched yet. And the two garlic beds, one here and here, they're doing well. I do, you know, the regimental thing. You know, it's the old soldier in me. I love to see straight lines. Yeah, it pleases my old soldier's eye. What else can I tell you? The kale, we've had a fantastic crop off of those. Looks like they're now starting to go to seed, but they don't owe me anything. They're a beautiful thing in their own right. And very, very good for you. Bit of a mess over here with all my pots and trays and so on, but you know, I'm not going to worry about that. That's the sort of thing that I will, on a weekly basis, start to transit up to the new place in Herefordshire. The blueberries are in bud, looking lovely, and as the sun shines into my little shelter, the sheds are in fine form. Ponds full of frog spawn. The runner bean, or the bean frame, is very sturdy. One of the places I go, one of my customers has a plantation of bamboo, and every year she reminds me, Martin, please help yourself, it's a blimmin' nuisance. So I do. Look at this stuff. It's rock solid. Fantastic. So yeah, the plot is looking good. Wow, that's actually warm in my hand. That's the chippings from the Brussels sprout plants. It pen and inks, but it does make good compost. Definitely you need to make more use of my chipping machine when we get to the new place, and the making of compost will get very serious. But as is usual, the ash from my fire. And then this is a bag of shredded documents that my wife has been keeping for the last 40 years. I'm being facetious. She shreds anything with an address on it, like our address is a national secret. Bless her. So we're going through, or she's going through all our documents and so on. And I mean, I burnt a load, but now she's shredded this lot. There's more bags to come. It's blimmin' ridiculous, isn't it? She said to me, she said, Martin, they won't be on view, will they? I said, no, the compost has got a lid on it. What are you worried about, love? You think someone's going to come up here, sit, and go through this and put it all back together? She says, well, we've got to be secure, we've got to be safe. Right, let me have a go. Right, let's have a look. Oh yeah, there it is. Ooh, that's interesting. I don't know. You know, I have to say, I'm not very impressed with this platform's censorship over the last 5 years. But what I do love about YouTube is the diversity of subjects that you can find out about. Instead of being fed your information from the mainstream media, which is mostly propaganda nowadays, you know, climate change, COVID, all of that, they just lie. You can find out the truth, and I really appreciate that from YouTube, if you're prepared to look. I watched a documentary this week called Sand Wars, and as the name suggests, you know, sand is an incredibly valuable resource, and it's finite. We're running out of it. It was absolutely incredible. I just simply wasn't aware of the sheer number of countries that are illegally tapping sand as a resource from other people's land. We've run out of sand on land. You know, the UK is covered in what used to be gravel and sand pits from excavation, and they're now fishing lakes and water skiing lakes, etc., etc. We've now had to move into the sea because the sand in the deserts, because it moves about, it rounds off and it won't stick together and bind. So you can't use the sand in the deserts. You have to go into the sea. And here's some interesting facts. The average house requires 200 tons of sand to build it. Bricks, cement, foundations, etc. A hospital, on average, requires 3,000 tons of sand. 1 kilometre of motorway needs 30,000 tons of sand. 1 kilometre. And a nuclear plant requires 12 million tons of sand. Which, you know, I mean, I can't even imagine, if you saw a pile that was 12 million tons, how big would that be? I don't know. Probably bigger than the hospital. The nuclear reactor. I found it all fascinating. Worldwide, per year, we use 15 billion tons of sand for construction, etc., etc. You know, I mean, how long is it going to last? It's fascinating. Now, I've heard about the Maldives, that group of island in the ocean, and, you know, climate change alarmists and crybabies say, oh, you know, the sea's rising, and, you know, it's not the sea rising that's killing the Maldives. There are companies going in with massive dredgers and scooping out the sand in between all the islands. And of course, as you know, with sand, if you create a hole in sand, the sand fills in that hole from around that hole. So what's happening in the Maldives is the islands are sinking because they're filling in the holes as the dredgers create them. It's nothing to do with climate change, which we're all, you know, Yeah, fascinating once you know the real facts. Absolutely incredible. The United States of America has built one reservoir per day since the Declaration of Independence in 1776. I can't even get my head around that. 80,000 reservoirs. Now, why that's relevant is because, for example, the beaches of Florida were created in the Appalachian Mountains. The rocks break down eventually into sand. The sand flows down the rivers and comes out the deltas into the sea and creates the beaches of Florida. Well, of course, because Americans and every other country are damming their rivers, that sand can't flow. And so the beaches no longer have this constant flow of sand to regenerate them as the sea erodes them. It's incredible. 9 out of 10 beaches in the world are disappearing. So whatever you're doing this summer, get yourself down the beach before it disappears. I found it all absolutely fascinating. Which reminds me, I need some more sand for my carrot tubs. I'm off to the Maldives. Yeah, so the news on the site is we've got several plots that they were paid for last year, but they weren't used. And I think at least a few of them, well, I know a few of them, aren't coming back this year. And this is one of them. The lady hasn't used it for a year. But as you can see, she did cover some of it. And we met 2 days ago, we met the new plotters. They seem very keen, but then plotters always do when they turn up day one, don't they? So we'll see. But they have got a massive advantage that they've got this large area of the plot which is bare soil, which is nice. So yeah, good luck to them. I look forward to seeing how this develops. Sounds to me like the lady knows what she's doing. She's grown fruits and vegetables in her own garden before, so they're not novices. Yeah, look forward to it. So it's good news. Nice to see another plot in use. It was nice to hear voices on the plot yesterday. It was another lovely day, and there were several people up here. Made a refreshing change to the deathly silence I'm usually accompanied by with all my friends. Well, not the hardest. I've worked on the allotment on a Sunday, and only half a day. More things to do at home. And I think this week ahead, I'm going to multi-sow some radish. I'm going to multi-sow some beetroot. And I think next weekend I can harvest my false rhubarb. Haven't looked under the drum yet, but I'm anticipating a good crop. And I think I'll sow my first early potatoes. I think I'll do that next week as well, and let's hope the temperatures at night stay above zero. But things have got to move on. I've got to start getting things in, because if and when we move, life will be hectic and I won't have time. So I enjoyed this morning. Not done a great deal. The most important thing I've done really is keep that hoe moving before the seeds establish, before the weeds establish. Get the hoe over the soil, so that the crops in the future don't have to compete with weeds. So I'm very happy with the state of play. Frustrated with the house move, but there's nothing much we can do about that. And hopefully I'll see you next week. Until I do, look after yourselves. Take care. Bye for now.